G'day Jafffa Adventures, Terry King here. Welcome to the channel. Well, I'm back in the shed ready to start swinging a spanner on this 200 series. This is video number 25 in my 200 series maintenance video playlist. And this job should only take me 10 minutes. So this is going to be a very, very short video. Yeah, nah, it never works out like that, does it? So what am I going to get up to this morning? I'm going to fit an Outback Armour bump stop kit on the front of my cruiser. Regular viewers to my channel will know that I love learning, and you know what? I learned something today and I haven't even started the job yet. There's the instructions for this Outback Armour kit, and it is called a Jounce stop. And I had never ever encountered that word before in all of my times, so I actually had to look it up. The definition of jounce is to jolt or bounce. And an example sentence they used is the car jounced wildly. So there you go. I'm going to put Jounce stops in. Now my Toyota ones are stuffed, and if you use your car for off-road, I suspect yours probably are too. And when I pull them off the car, we'll have a look at it and you can see. Now these Outback Armour ones are much different than the Toyota ones. These particular bump stops are progressive. So they're 60 millimeters in total height, but they've kind of got a concertina groove here. So as the car squishes down on the bump stop, the rebound force will multiply as that gets squashed. The instructions are pretty simple, and they've got a multi-fit kit. And there are some specifics to the 200 series Landcruiser. And those specifics are: replace the OE bump stops towards the rear of the control arm. We'll go have a look at that on the car, but there are more than one bump stop on each of those control arms. The other thing it suggests is there's a flat here on this washer, and it says that that flat needs to be facing towards the wheel. So we got to remember that. This is one of those multi-fit kits, so they give you a whole host of bolts and studs and washers to allow it to fit up to multiple different vehicles. And this kit was not cheap. I can't remember exactly what I paid for it. I'll throw it up on the screen when I'm editing this video. But what I do recall when I bought this thing was, holy shit, that was expensive for what you get. Anyway, let's jump under the car and let's fit this sucker up. First thing I'm going to do is pull this tire off. Now I imagine you probably could do this job with the tire still on and climbing under the car, but you get a lot more sort of spanner swinging room with this tire out of the road. Okay, backbreaker time. All right, there's my target. That's the bump stop on the back of the control arm, and tucked in just there is the bump stop on the front of the control arm. Now I don't have a socket big enough to get that off, so I'm gonna have to use a pipe wrench, I think. Once I pull that off, I'll measure that and give you the hot tip on what size that is. So if you can get yourself a socket of that size, it'll make your job a little bit easier. All right, I got a whole quarter turn of the pipe wrench on each turn, but it came out eventually. Look at that rust on the top of that, but the threads are in pretty good nick, and that rubber is hard as a rock. Listen to that. I'd never want that bump stop to contact that lower control arm. Probably punch a hole through the control arm. It's that hard. Okay, there's all the bits and pieces out of our kit. It's obviously our bump stop. Now what I need to do is find the stud that will match this Toyota one. That's it there, and that simply screws into the bottom side of that bump stop. Now what I'm going to do is give that end a generous coating of some Loctite. Spread that around on the threads. Let's get rid of this shrapnel. Now here's a little trick to tightening up studs that you may or may not be aware of. You drive two nuts down on that. You tighten those two nuts up against one another, and then you use your top nut to drive the stud in. That's it, she's bottomed out. And you take your two spanners, you crack the nuts, just spin them off. There you go, you got a stud installed into the bump stop. Now the instructions called for this washer on here. It sits like that. There's our original Toyota bump stop. It never had a washer, so I'm not exactly sure what the purpose of that is. Now I am going to put a tiny amount of Loctite on this. It's going to be right at the very base of the threads. just like that. That should be enough to lock this thing in place, but not too much, whereas if I have to take it out, I'll never get the bloody thing out again. All right, I said I was gonna measure the diameter of this sucker. That little puppy is 57 millimeters. So if you're gonna use a socket to get that off, 57, 58 millimeters will get you there. All right, let's go do the install. All right, we just screw our bump stop in place, like so. Now that washer had to be lined up with that flat facing the wheel, which is about there. We'll lock that down with our pipe wrench. There we go. She's locked down, flat facing the wheel. Okay, let's get this wheel back on. Boy, that's a heavy beast of a thing. I wouldn't want any bigger tires. I'd never be able to lift the damn things. Just got my tire back on and I'm ready to drop the car down. And I just decided to check the wheel bearings and have a look at this. That ain't right. There's some slop in there. So I dug a little bit deeper again and have a look at this lower ball joint. Watch this. That's stuffed as well. The other side's all right, but this side is cactus. So guess what job is on the agenda next? I think I might actually take it to a tire shop to get that done, to be honest. All right, the car's back down on the ground, and some of you might rightly be asking, hey, won't this impact the articulation of the car so I don't have quite as much wheel travel with those larger bump stops? Now, this is the front bump stop, and it's about 55 mil between that bump stop and the lower control arm. This is our rear bump stop, and it's about 40 mil between that bump stop and the lower control arm. So that gives us a 15 mil difference between the front and the back. I have no doubt that that rubber will crush down at least 15 mil, probably more like 25 mil when the lever action of that lower control arm hits it. So will it impact on my articulation? Well, the short answer is I don't know because I haven't had this off-road yet, but I will in about 2 days' time. If it does have an impact on articulation, I'll report that back to you because I will be doing some off-road driving before this video hits the airwaves. Well, there we have it. 2 dead Toyota bump stops. Far out, listen to those suckers. Now I can accidentally hit those washouts at speed without blowing my spine. After editing, I don't know how long this video is going to run, but honestly, that was probably a 15 or a 20-minute job. That was one of the easiest jobs I've done on this 200 series. If I had additional bump stops, I definitely would have fit them on the front side of those control arms as well. However, I don't, so it is what it is. I'm in a better position now than where I was 20 minutes ago. Is this little bit of maintenance for you? Only you can decide that, but now you know how to do it. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Keep the shiny side up. Bye now. Bye, Felicia.